everybody. This is Dianne. Hello, and welcome to Biters.
And this is Marnell. And sports ball is delayed due to weather, but we are delayed due to wildlife activity.
And computer problems, which I am totally over. I think I'm going to have to buy a new Mac, which is really frustrating. But Marnell, tell us your story because that's much more funny.
Well, I also think it's North Korea interfering with our podcast because we're podcasting about South Korean movies now.
Again, yes.
But my funny wildlife story is that we currently have a baby bear stuck up the tree in the backyard. So we are podcasting late on a Friday night because about 2-3 hours ago, my dog went into the backyard and went absolutely bonkers. And I thought she was going crazy about a squirrel that lives in the tree in the backyard. And so I went out there to chastise her for barking at this poor little squirrel. And it turns out she wasn't barking at the squirrel because the squirrel was out there and the squirrel was totally going crazy. But the squirrel was going crazy because there was a bear in its tree. And so we have a baby, about a yearling. I mean, he's tiny. He's seriously the size of my Labrador Retriever. And Mama is nowhere to be seen. So this will be interesting because it will not be the first time that I have had a baby bear stuck on the roof of the house with Mama going around the house pounding on the windows.
Do you think he might be an orphan, or do you think Mama is out there somewhere?
I think Mama's out there somewhere. So a lot of times baby bears will go up the tree when Mama is out foraging for food or if there is danger in the area. So I don't know if my dog treed the bear or if the bear was already up the tree and my dog just exasperated the situation, because she is certainly in an agitated state tonight because of the bear, and we have locked her out of the backyard so that maybe the baby bear will come down. But sunset is at about 10 o'clock, and then you have civil twilight and nautical twilight, which pretty much means it never gets truly dark anymore right now in Juneau. And I have a feeling that, like, he's either waiting for dark to come down or Mama's waiting for dark to bring him down. So it could be a long night.
So that is very interesting. I honestly did not know all of these years that a baby black bear will go up a tree if Mom is out foraging.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool.
Basically, Treebeard is black bear babysitter.
Huh. Interesting. Very interesting.
So I kind of expected, and I can actually, from Podcast Central, I can actually see the tree and I can actually see the baby bear up in the tree. So I'm expecting at any moment that this bear is going to come to, and he's actually just sleeping in the branches right now. He's kind of curled up against the trunk. Before he was way out on a limb, and I was afraid he was going to fall or the branch was going to break and he was going to fall into my backyard. But yeah, this is Alaska.
All right, honest to God, every Biters listener out there, admit it. This is the first time you've ever had a podcaster say they're watching a baby bear from their podcasting room. I really got nothing. I don't have anything that exciting going on. I have my 3-legged dog who is asleep in her bed, and everybody else is out in the main area of the house. So I don't have anything nearly as exciting as your bear.
Well, at least it's a moment of levity, because it's really been a rough couple of weeks. So between, coronavirus and the civil unrest in our country, my husky Bandit, which I've talked about on the podcast, died very suddenly a couple of weeks ago. If you have not listened to our collaborative season 10B episode with the Aim for the Head podcast, folks, I encourage you to go listen to it. But
because Diana and Steve are awesome.
It's so much fun to podcast with them.
Yes.
But it was just a couple of days before that my husky died very suddenly at home. And we are very, very upset about it, to say the least. And so that's actually one of the reasons why we are podcasting late this week, is because it's just been a really hard week. So, yeah.
I agree. I have been incredibly fatigued and still working really far more than I want to work.
Ditto.
Yeah.
I mean, they say that government employees don't work that hard. And of course, the stereotype is people who stay at home to work don't work that hard. But I assure you, it is quite the opposite. There have been many of nights I have found myself at my computer at 7 or 8 p.m. And the only reason why I leave is because the programs that I need to use actually go down for the night so that they can run their updates and reports and everything. So
I would imagine that public health in the age of COVID is pretty busy.
it is very, very
Yeah.
busy.
I had an interesting interaction with a patient today who was supposed to be taking rifampin for treatment of latent TB. And the reason that we treat latent TB, not active, is that we've discovered over many decades that treating people for latent TB can prevent them from converting to an active case of TB later in life. And it's typically something that I'm sure you know is very closely followed by public health. And
Right.
they're very much on top of making sure that people are taking their rifampin and finishing their treatment because they don't want TB to become an epidemic again. And so I said to this patient, I'm actually incredibly shocked to discover that no one from public health has followed up with you, because this patient had not even started their rifampin.
Oh, my goodness.
And it was prescribed like 3 or 4 months ago.
So
And-
the only thing that I can say is that we're a little preoccupied by
Right.
coronavirus.
Well,
right
and the patient kind of laughed and said, I think public health has bigger fish to fry right now. And I said, fair enough. That's a very good point.
So that is actually one of the interesting things about Alaska, is because we do have tuberculosis outbreaks every once in a while. We do have a state statute mandate, something like that, that says we can forcefully quarantine you if you have tuberculosis.
Until you finish treatment.
Right. And if you cannot be quarantined in your home, because we have a lot of people who live in multi-generational homes that are one room in a lot of the villages, we will pay for you to stay at a hotel, bed and breakfast, whatever is available in your area. So we pay for your stay for the time that you are being treated for tuberculosis. We pay for the cleaning of the room after that, and we pay for meal delivery while you are in quarantine. And it's just part of maintaining our public health system. And it's the only reason why we don't have massive tuberculosis outbreaks. I mean, there was one recently, and I say recently as in 2 years ago, in a place called Bethel, Alaska, where it was a church gathering and there were 9 people that tested positive for tuberculosis. So, yeah. That stuff is still real up here. So we take things like the coronavirus very, very seriously.
And I would think that those of us who have quarantined by now have come to the realization that being quarantined for the entire duration of your treatment of tuberculosis is not fun, even if you're getting room service.
Yeah. No.
Because it's a lot longer than a COVID quarantine.
I've started compulsive shopping. And also painting furniture with mineral paint. So that's what I do in my free time.
I'm just exhausted. I'm still making masks. I have to admit that I've burned myself out. I have been doing a little bit of knitting for our friend Sean. I'm almost done with the thing that I promised him. But yeah, I'm fried.
Yep.
All right.
I absolutely agree.
But we are actually here to talk about Seoul Station.
Yes.
which is the prequel to Train to Busan, even though it was released like a month after Train to Busan was a huge hit.
Well, and see, that's why it's called a prequel and
Fair.
not...
That's fair. And Train to Busan isn't called a sequel. Okay.
Right, exactly.
I'll give you that. So, right off, do you have a rating for me?
I do. So, like I said, we were podcasting late, and I actually just watched it. And you had texted me earlier in the week and said that you loved it. And I have to say that I loved it also. And so I am only cutting 0.25 points off of my rating for Train to Busan because it was so great. The only thing is I'm not huge into cartoons. So I rated it a 4.6 terrible boyfriends. And you will have to excuse my dogs for barking this episode, or my dog barking this episode, because there is a bear in the tree in the backyard.
It's fair enough. You know, my dogs barked their fool heads off when we were podcasting with Diana and Steve, so I think we will cut Phoenix some slack since she has some distraction.
Right? Then she probably needs to pee.
Well, I rated it very close to yours. I rated it 4.65 out of 5 overrun ERs.
Oh, nice.
That was a great
way
scene.
Too quiet.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I have to say, so there was a little bit that we'll get into when we talk about our goods, bads, and uglies that made me make it a 4.65 instead of a 5, but I have to say that especially the first half, I was like, dang, this is really good. This is really gripping, and it's a cartoon.
Right. Yeah, I have to say that this is something I would very highly recommend, even though it is and I hate to say cartoon, and it really wasn't in the style of anime, so I kind of, it's like a moving graphic novel.
So it was really interesting because I definitely saw shades of anime in it, but I agree it's not like traditional anime. Right. So, not that I'm a huge anime watcher, but, you know.
Me either.
So I have a few numbers. There wasn't a ton, but I can tell you that the budget was a little over $500,000. It was $575,000. I didn't get any sense of what the gross earnings for it have been. It did get released at the Edinburgh Film Festival, but and please correct me, Victoria Morris, if I pronounce that wrong, because I am not from the UK and I'm definitely not Scottish, so I may have completely blown that.
Edinburgh, right?
There you go. Yes. Yeah. Victoria, help. Okay.
I think that I watch enough British TV.
So it was released at that film festival on August 18th, 2016. I don't know if it actually got released for box office or if eventually what happened was it got put on Blu-ray and DVD.
So IMDb has the box office cumulative worldwide gross just over $2 million.
So again, you know, a pretty good investment. They invested basically $500,000 and they made over $2 million.
Yeah. Yeah. For a 92-minute cartoon.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I will tell you that 100% of the critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave it a positive review.
But 100%. Wow.
But I have to give you a little caveat and say that there only 15 critics reviewed it.
Oh, okay.
Nonetheless, 15 people all agreed that it deserved a positive review. So,
right.
You know.
There wasn't that one dude that goes on there and was like, oh my God, this is the most awful thing I've seen in the entire life.
Right.
Yeah.
What was really interesting is I looked at some of the comments on IMDb, and it was not as well received by the fans as it was by the critics. There were a lot of fans saying things like, oh, it didn't really answer anything about how the ZA started, and it didn't really expand on the story and tell us how Train to Busan happened, and So there were definitely some critics among the viewers who didn't particularly like it. It was rated a 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb.
So, but I think that's part of the reason why we like The Walking Dead is because it maintains that mystique of we really don't know how it started. So I'm okay with that.
And I was actually really okay with this being a story of its own that did not connect to Train to Busan, other than in that it is the same ZA in South Korea.
Right. And I kind of feel like I expected all along, and I know that it's not supposed to have a connection to Train to Busan, but and we're totally gonna slaughter the names of the characters.
Yes, that was one of my bads, and I'm gonna say it right now. My Korean has not gotten any better.
So, Hoisana?
I said Haesun.
Haesun. Well,
The main character.
Yeah.
I mean, we can safely say she's the main character.
They kept adding an A at the end of the name. Like, it just, yeah. So I feel like she might, like, had it not ended exactly the way that it ended, that she would have been the girl that ran onto the train on Train to Busan.
And I was honestly kind of wondering if that was where it was going to go. But I think with the way that this movie ended, that's not the case.
Yeah, no.
But that's definitely where I was wondering if it was going to take us up to that moment where that woman ran onto the train in Train to Busan.
Yep.
It did have a win for Best Animated Feature Film in 2016 at the Asia Pacific Screen Awards. And I think it had 3 nominations for Best Animated Picture as well in various different award shows.
So just nominations, not awards. I can't imagine what would win the award over this. Maybe something with a bigger fan base?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, probably like a Pixar movie.
Yeah.
You know? But this was very good, and it did get that one award at the Asia Pacific Film Awards, so that's cool. I'm not going to belabor things about the writer and director. It's the same writer and director who wrote Train to Busan, Sang Ho-yeon. I think I'm saying his name right. And you said you had something kind of interesting for a featured cast.
Yeah, so we're not actually doing a featured cast member this episode because it's very hard to do that with voice actors that are kind of unknown in your country. So instead of a featured cast member, I thought we would do a featured country, which of course would be South Korea.
Oh, hey, that's cool.
Heretofore representative as Korea, because we all know that we're talking about South Korea and not North Korea. So first of all, I would just like to say that I am absolutely loving K-pop on Twitter, which if you don't know what that means, it's Korean pop with their music, their style of music. They are absolutely hijacking any of the white supremacist hashtags on Twitter and making them all about K-pop.
Okay, like, I was wondering what the heck Anonymous was talking about when they were tweeting about that.
Yes, so K-pop is anytime there is a white supremacist hashtag trending on Twitter, the K-pop fans hop on Twitter and they start posting K-pop videos and fan stuff to Twitter with the hashtag so that it completely buries the root of the hashtag. So I would just like to express my appreciation to K-pop fans.
That's really funny.
It is. So I wanted to focus on a couple of things that are super interesting if you ever visit South Korea. So one of the first ones, and of course, you know, I'm a super white girl from Alaska, so I'm uncultured and I don't know anything about Korea. So I Googled things to know if you visit South Korea. First one. Public bathrooms can be a bit confusing. So, in opposition to their Chinese and Japanese kind of counterparts in Asia, in Korea, you may come upon a squatty potty when you are looking for a public bathroom. And a squatty potty is exactly what it sounds like. It's basically just kind of a hole in the ground that you squat over. And just FYI, if you ever go, the toilet paper is on the outside of the stall. So just be aware that you need to bring in enough toilet paper for yourself, and do not throw it in the squatty potty. You must take it and throw it in the trash outside of your stall.
Oh my God, that is really funny.
Yeah, so that is a complete culture shock to me. I have kind of heard about this from a friend who visits Yalapa, Mexico a lot. This is kind of a thing where they don't have the kind of same sewer system that more industrialized countries do, the UK or America or anything like that. So their septic systems cannot handle toilet paper. So you have to throw it in the garbage outside of where you are. And so just be aware that if you ever visit South Korea, the toilet paper is on the outside of the stall. The other thing that you should be aware of is there is absolutely nothing that you would consider personal space. You have a population of 25 million people in Korea and growing. And so there is a lot of people being in your personal bubble and pushing and shoving. Do not be surprised if you get elbowed in the subway. Wow. I could not imagine that. Like, especially in a time of social distancing.
Yeah, that would make me anxious.
Yeah, definitely. So anything that we westernized people would see as rude would just be kind of the normal. And you see this in a lot of Asian Pacific countries where they have a huge population that rides the subway at the same time. And you have people that literally, there's station people that literally push you into the train of the car. Ugh. It's just, they pack you in like a cattle car. And I just...
So that actually really kind of gets my claustrophobia brewing in a big bad way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could not imagine a stranger pressed up against me. That's beyond my...
I'm actually getting chest tightness just thinking about it.
But their public transportation is very, very cheap. So if you ever go there, you need to buy what would be considered a Metro Pass. And it's super, super cheap. And so are their normal taxis. Everything that I read said beware of the black taxis. And I don't mean blacks and black people. I mean actually black cars. They're supposedly more of a luxurious travel. But they're really just kind of an overpriced taxi. So take a regular taxi. Don't take the basically town car, as I would think of it. So that's so funny. I kept seeing beware of the black taxi. So the other thing is there is and they call it a cheap water. And, you know, living in Alaska my entire life, we can drink our water straight from the tap. It wasn't until I traveled to other places in my own country that I found out that you cannot drink water straight from taps in certain places. I went to Vegas, I went to Florida. You cannot drink tap water. And growing up in Alaska my entire life, that's just completely beyond me because our tap water is delicious. I know you're on well water. That's completely different. I'm on a regular city water, and there is actually a bottled water company here in Alaska called, I think it's called like Thunder Mountain Water Company. And I'm actually looking at Thunder Mountain right now, and I'm pretty sure there's no like natural spring that they get their water from. They're just using our city and borough tap water to bottle their water. But yeah, our water is great straight out of the tap. But in South Korea, they drink a water called, and I want to say it's soju. Maybe I'm pronouncing that more French, but it's SOJU.
Huh.
And it is a distilled ethanol water mix that is affordable, becoming the ultimate everyman's drink. It can be enjoyed neat in a cocktail, flavored with fruit, blended with yogurt, and combined with beer. Soju ranges from 20 to 45% alcohol by volume.
I like the way South Koreans drink their water.
Drink water. I know. Like, I need to hydrate more. So it dates back to the 13th century and has not lost any of its appeal in 800 years.
Oh my God, that is hilarious.
Koreans set an all-time sales record in 2004, buying 3 billion, that's billion with a B's, bottles of soju. So basically for a 375 milliliter bottle of soju, it's $1 in South Korea. So 20 to 45% alcohol by volume, and it's $1.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's 2 last things in South Korea. So Japan is a touchy subject in South Korea, and it was because of the 35 years of Japanese rule between 1910 and 1945. Tens of thousands of Japanese men were forced into the Korean men were forced into the Japanese army, and the Korean women became comfort women, which was basically sexual slavery.
I remember that. Yeah.
And so currently, still outside of the Japanese consulate in Korea, there is a statue that supposedly commemorates comfort women, but I kind of see it as our Civil War statues here in the U.S. So the South Koreans really, really want this statue taken down, but because it's part of the history, the Japanese consulate doesn't want to take it down. So it's kind of interesting that they're having the same thing over there as we are here. I always thought that was kind of unique to our history, but it turns out that it's sort of universal. But as of the date of this article, there were still 45 women in Korea that were comfort women back in roughly 1945. So there were still 45 women alive that had been comfort women. So the last thing, and I find this most interesting, I found this actually years ago. So when I saw that we were doing, Seoul Station and Train to Busan, I remembered that South Korea has an interesting quirk with age. So when you speak to someone who is older than you, even if it's just by a year, you actually have to speak to that person in a more eloquent dialect. Basically, you have to be more formal with them, as if you are older than the person you were speaking with, you can be more relaxed about your verbiage and your language. And so elders are revered in Korean culture, and they have an interesting way of calculating their age. It is unlike anything that you see anywhere else in the world. So under the system of the way that they calculate the age, a baby is classified as 1 year old when they are born automatically. So if you were born on December 31st, and your age turns over on January 1st, it doesn't matter about your birthday. Your age, you age 1 year on January 31st. So if you were born on December 31, the next day you are 2 years old, even though you were born yesterday.
Interesting.
Yes. So there is actually a South Korean lawmaker right now who has introduced a bill to abolish this unusual system, that the way they calculate the age, because it doesn't match with anything else in the rest of the world, and it's very difficult to sort of translate your birth certificate, passport, blah, 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 to the rest of the world. But it is very, very controversial that you would abolish this, because it basically, once you abolish it, it is completely unfair to the people that are born after that, because they will subsequently be younger than the people that were born the day before that. And because age is such a huge thing in South Korea, it would give people an unfair social advantage after the bill was passed. So I find that absolutely fascinating, and I cannot remember where I saw it years and years ago. It might have been a YouTube video or a Vice documentary or something, but I remembered that they had some weird thing about the way they calculated ages. And yeah, so
that's really interesting.
Yeah. So I told you I did not have a featured cast member, but South Korea is just amazingly interesting in their culture. And and they have a lot of the same quirks as you would find around the rest of the world. So if you go into a building in the U.S., you might not find a floor 13, because there is a superstition about the 13th floor. You will go straight from the 12th floor to the 14th floor, which the 14th floor is actually the 13th floor, but they don't label the 13th floor because it's a superstition. It's the same way in South Korea, only with the 4th floor. The number 4 is a bad omen. So, in so many ways we are so different, and in other ways we are completely alike. So, yeah.
Very interesting.
South Korea is fascinating, and now I love their movies.
You still need to watch Eat, Drink, Man, Woman.
I do.
It was a really good movie.
I think I'm probably going to watch Parasite first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, I have a little bit in Housewives Corner. It's nothing real exciting. I just thought we could kind of talk a little bit about what we've been up to. I know we talked a little bit at the beginning of the pod. Mm-hmm. I am going to a march tomorrow. I am hoping that I will be safe, because there have been a lot of threats made online about this local march. So, there is the possibility this may be my last podcast.
You know what? I'm sorry. The bear is coming down from the tree now.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. Phoenix is probably going to go here again in a minute then.
Oh my god, he is skittering like a little spider down the tree.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, so sorry. The march, which is a very serious topic,
right,
and the threats against the march in Alaska have also been very serious, because they've come from some very high-level people.
Well, so certainly it's happening in Palmer, which is a community about an hour away from us. And certainly the mayor and the police chief who is now on, what am I looking for? On leave, on administrative leave. They have certainly not been at all supportive of any protests associated with Black Lives Matter, to put it mildly. Neither of them has made any threats per se, but there have been a lot of community members who talk about bringing their high-powered automatic rifles and who talk about bringing their attack dogs, and that's a little scary.
Yeah.
Because I definitely don't intend to do anything violent. I just want to go and show my support for people who don't have the privilege that I have because of my skin color.
Right. And we're
going to get a little political here, you guys. Sorry. It is what it is.
We talked about, everyone's a fearless keyboard cowboy, but it really just takes one to act upon that. And that's very scary.
So, definitely prayers for everyone's safety would be quite welcome because it's worrisome. It's concerning in this day and age.
It definitely is.
I definitely feel like regardless of your intent, even if they're intents that I disagree with, we all have the right to assemble peacefully.
Yes, absolutely. And I will, hopefully to reassure you, I will tell you that Juneau had a peaceful protest last weekend, and everyone was very respectful. Online, there was a lot of talk.
But Juneau is pretty lefty and blue compared to where I live.
Definitely. Definitely. I think the biggest controversy on our peaceful protest was whether or not you were supposed to wear a mask or not.
Oh my goodness.
And I was just like, why don't we just have all of the people not wearing a mask, like on one side, and everyone else who wants to wear a mask on the other side? And like everyone can just protest collectively, but like all the unmasked people are over here, and because it's outside.
Okay, at the risk of getting extremely COVID-y, I have to say that I was in the store last night and maybe 10% of the people, and that includes store employees, were masked.
Yeah.
And it is still a mandate in the state of Alaska for anyone who comes into a healthcare facility to be masked. So I have literally been walking into patients' rooms and looking at them and saying, I would appreciate it if you would put on a mask because you are protecting me.
Yeah.
Because absolutely. I wear a mask for every patient interaction.
So I have a really great little side story about masks. So there, of course, have been a lot of businesses that have actually basically gone bankrupt because of coronavirus, because of social distancing, and they've had to close. So we actually have a company locally. It was, I think it was called Capital Canvas, and what they did was boat covers.
Oh, okay.
And so when they had to close their doors due to coronavirus, the owner decided to switch to making PPE. And he started specializing in the clear plastic protective PPE that goes around the head. And it almost looks like a beekeeper's bonnet, but it's got the clear plastic in front so that people with hearing disabilities could still read lips. And I have to say, this is the most amazing story. He has so many orders that he's had to hire more employees. He's taken on 6 extra employees, which is a lot here in Alaska, and all of the employees that he's taken on have been laid off due to coronavirus from their other jobs. And so he is filling these orders for thousands and thousands of units of this PPE that he started making around the world. So I just thought that was a really amazing story that comes out of this, that he had this business that basically failed because of coronavirus, but he pivoted and leaned into it, and it's really worked out for him.
That's very cool.
Yeah. So
I would say the other thing that I want to share, and this is going back to marches and protests, is that I'm reading John Lewis's book, Across That Bridge, and it's quite a good book.
Oh.
I am celebrating 1 month as a vegan. And I've got to say, I pigged out on vegan gluten-free pizza tonight, and it was actually really good. I know that probably doesn't sound very appealing to most people, but it was pretty good.
We ordered from 2 local restaurants. We've been trying to do a lot of local shopping and ordering out and stuff. So, yeah.
I am sure that I mentioned it on a podcast. I'm pretty sure that I mentioned it when we were podcasting with Steve and Diana, but the book Thug Kitchen, did I talk about that?
I think so.
Oh my God.
I talked about a cooking show on Sling that I liked.
Okay. So I will put out there that Thug Kitchen also has a website. So if you're looking to incorporate more plant-based eating into your diet, I would highly recommend Thug Kitchen because they're awesome.
So I think the cooking show that I recommended on Sling, and he's got a YouTube channel too, is called Struggle Eats. And it's basically how to make meals for like $2 a serving.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So he was a struggling former student with student loans, and he's a chef by trade, and he started a YouTube channel on basically how to make delicious, healthy, and sometimes vegetarian/vegan meals out of absolutely nothing in your refrigerator. So
nice.
I highly recommend Struggle Eats. Are you watching anything?
I'm not. I have to say, I was going to say summer is here. We have tons of light. I have been incredibly unsuccessful getting a garden up and running. I have literally been working and sleeping and taking Flea to Agility. And Agility was canceled over the last weekend, so I literally have been working and sleeping. And the mosquitoes are crazy and the wasps are crazy. They're horrible.
So I think it was Steve that recommended Homecoming. He said he was watching Homecoming. I'm trying to watch Homecoming season 1 on Amazon, and I'm really not into it. And I tried to watch Space Force on Netflix, and I'm super not into it. It's a Steve Carell kind of comedy, I guess. I didn't find it funny, but whatever. But I have to tell you, there are 2 shows I absolutely recommend above all others right now, and I'm so glad that I have found them. The first one might interest you, it might not. I don't know. It's called The Last Kingdom. I think it's got 3 seasons out.
It's a Korean show, isn't it?
No.
Oh,
Vikings.
maybe I'm thinking of The Kingdom.
Yeah. This is The Last Kingdom, and it's about Vikings.
Okay, I haven't watched it then.
Yeah, it's really, really good. It's on Netflix. But the other one that I want to recommend, and I highly recommend that you watch it, is called Hollywood. It is also on Netflix. I cannot remember the actor's name, but he stars as Sheldon Cooper on The Big Bang Theory. There are several other amazing actors in it and actresses. But it is about the golden era of Hollywood, and it's semi-fictionalized. It centers kind of around Brock Hudson and some screenwriters and some actresses, but it is more so about the LGBTQ community in Hollywood when it was still completely taboo to be. I absolutely love it. Forewarning, there is a lot of full frontal male nudity. So watch it with the blinds closed and the children out of the room. But it is so funny and so poignant, and it's semi-fictionalized, but I have to think that some of this came from somewhere. And it's a really, really good movie show. It's only, I think, 8 episodes. And it also touches on a whole bunch of other issues, the casting couch and black actresses and screenwriters in Hollywood when, they didn't get those sort of roles or things like that. They don't use the N word, but they say colored. So even I am a little squeamish about that. So there were some kind of uncomfortable moments, but I absolutely highly recommend the show on Netflix, Hollywood.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's a quick one. I mean, I still haven't watched the last episode, but I mean, I think they might be 42 minutes or an hour-long episode, and I think there's only 8 of them. So, yeah, it's a good show.
Very cool. The only other stuff I have to share, it's kind of a bummer. So I found a mass in Koba's neck.
Aww.
Yeah, and I'm hoping it's just a lipoma, just a fatty tumor, but I'm not entirely convinced. So she's going to the vet on Tuesday, and she's my buddy. I mean, I talk a lot about Mouse, but Koba is like glued to my side. So it's going to be really hard if there's something bad going on with her.
Well, here's hoping for good margins.
Yeah. And the other thing is you should see our cat. Oh my God. So we had to shave him because he just was so matted and filthy and horrible. He would not clean himself. And I could not get the mats out. He was solidly matted. So my cat has man boobs.
Oh.
He looks ridiculous. His primordial pouch is giant and he has man boobs.
Pixar didn't happen.
The vet tech told me he doesn't clean himself because he is too fat.
Oh. So your cats are like mostly outdoor cats. They have access to the garage.
So they live in the garage and they have access to the outside. That's how I would put it, because they're much more inside than they are outside, especially our old lady cat. Abira is the old cat. Derp is the shaved cat. He's outside quite a bit more.
But they're pretty much mouser cats. Like, yes,
he
you
is
feed
more.
them.
He is no. So he's a mouser. He's a killer. He likes to leave dead things around. She's old. She just wants to lay in front of the heater. They're totally fed. Please don't make it out like they're feral cats, because they're so not.
They're totally fed. But I'm just saying he supplements his diet with wildlife.
So it was really Rusty who did that more than anything. He was the one who killed rabbits.
Oh my
So yeah.
Oh, he could hold his own against the sled dogs.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that keeps me from being a dog hoarder is my boyfriend. And the only thing that keeps me from being a cat hoarder is my severe allergy to cats. So animals make the best people.
True that. All right, back to zombies, back to The Walking Dead, because I'm sure that that one person who is still listening now is like, get over it already, get on with it. I have a little bit for Whisperer's Corner. So okay. Bloody Disgusting has an article up that has a trailer for A Certain Doom, which I think we've actually already seen this trailer, but there was a moment that I caught in the trailer when I watched it tonight that I had not noticed before. So it actually is kind of teasing the return of Virgil.
Oh.
Yeah, and that caught my eye tonight, and I hadn't noticed that. So that was very interesting. They interviewed Nicotero, or they had some stuff from an interview that Nicotero had given to another website, and he's basically saying that episode 16 is his favorite episode of season 10, and that he thinks it is going to be jaw-dropping.
I should hope so, because we all had to wait this long for it.
And I'm pretty sure it was Denise Huth who said, people may not make it out alive, which kind of is not a really big surprise. It is The Walking Dead, but...
Right.
A thing that I did notice when I was looking at the trailer, and I remembered this and went back and looked it up. So it is actually named for volume 28 of the collected volumes of the comic books. Volume 28 is called A Certain Doom, and that actually covers issues 163 through 168. And our final issue was 193. So, if you look at it that way, based on how it kind of lines up with the series, we've got about 30 issues of the comic to go.
Which could be anywhere from 30 seasons to 3 episodes.
Right. Getting a little bit political again, and I won't belabor it, I promise, but Walking Dead's Twitter account tweeted support of the BLM protesters, and there were lots of threats from people that they were never going to watch the show again, and that they were bailing on AMC, and the Walking Dead Twitter account basically responded with "sorry for your luck," and then shared pictures of Norman Reedus at a protest.
Oh, bless them.
Moving away from the political back into season 10. So there were numbers for season 10 at CBR.com. And according to the numbers that they published, Walking Dead season 10 is still the most watched scripted show on cable. It averaged 5.4 million viewers per episode. With the numbers that it's showing, Walking Dead overall is 11th in the all-time Nielsen measured primetime shows. And they did say that the stats, the 5.4 million views, do not account for any of the numbers from the AMC Premiere accounts.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I still want to know how many viewers are watching online or via other applications like Sling.
So they didn't say anything about, we're not counting viewers who watch online, but they definitely said that those numbers did not include people who are watching through AMC Premiere. So, yeah. And I'm guessing that probably services like Sling aren't being counted either. I'm sure it's just traditional cable TV.
Man, they got to get with the times.
Right. Just to point out, season 10 as compared to season 5, which apparently had the highest rated averages, the average viewership per episode in season 5, 14.38 million views.
Wow.
Yeah, so now we're around 5.4 million views, so that's pretty big.
Okay, Baby Black Bear Watch 2020, he's back up the tree.
Oh my god, that's so funny. And poor Phoenix, where is she? I haven't heard a peep.
She is moping in the house because she's not allowed to go outside.
That poor dog's bladder is going to have an issue.
Right? She's not used to having to hold it.
All right, I think with Baby Bear Watch on hold, you'll update us, I'm sure. We're ready to move to our goods, bads, and uglies.
Yes, we definitely are.
So, go ahead.
All right. So, I found a lot of good in this movie until the plot twist.
Oh, how can you say that?
I loved that plot twist at the end.
Okay. Good. I thought you were going to say you didn't like the plot twist, and I was like, what?
No. I was like, okay, this is my good. Oh, no, this is my good. And I'm like, no, the plot twist is totally my good.
So I'm already going to say the plot twist was my good ugly, because it was amazing.
Yes.
So, we're going to totally spoil the heck out of this. If you have not watched Seoul Station, please stop right now and go watch it.
And go watch Train to Busan.
Right. Absolutely.
So, I, like the entire show, the entire movie, I was thinking, he's such a caring father. Like, he's so concerned for her safety.
I even wrote at one point, Her dad is such a badass.
Yeah, he reminded me of the dad, the guy, the expectant father on Train to
Yes!
Busan, where he was just
Yes!
like, I will do anything to make my daughter safe. And then, dun dun dun, it's not her father, it's her pimp. Oh my God.
That was amazing and horrible, and I did not see that coming at all.
Okay, so my rating was terrible boyfriends, and that was way before the plot twist, and I was floored. Like I loved the first half of the movie, and I thought it started to lag in the second half, and then that
Same
happened.
here. Same
Oh
here. Until the
God.
plot twist.
Wow. Wow.
Yes.
I mean, I don't even have words for it. Like it was amazing. Like I don't know if one writer came up with that or if that was a collective thing or whatever, but like I picture people sitting around a writer's room going, what if the dad wasn't her dad and it was a pimp?
Well,
And
the
just
only writer that's credited is the writer-director.
brilliant. It was a brilliant plot twist.
I
Almost said a bad word. And it's because of the soju that I'm drinking. Elastic soju, which is also known as stout beer.
Well, my good was not nearly so big as that because that was my good ugly. But I actually had two things in my good category. The first was that I actually really love the animation style. So, I mean, I kind of cut my teeth on heavy metal. So I do like movies that are cartoons. I haven't seen a lot of good ones in a really long time. But it definitely brought to mind heavy metal because I loved that movie so much. The other thing that it made me think of was the classic kids cartoon Star Blazers, which is a Japanese cartoon.
Secret Time?
Yeah.
I've never seen heavy metal. And I really should. I get the reference. And I don't know the other cartoon that you speak of.
Okay, so heavy metal may not age well for you. I have all of my attachment to the soundtrack and attachment to that as being like one of the first really adult movies I ever saw.
Well, and I also heard that you probably should be somewhat high.
No, I wasn't high.
Okay.
In fact, I've never watched it high, and I've watched it multiple times, but I do have a strong attachment to it. So, and Star Blazers, oh my God, if you haven't watched Star Blazers, it is totally worth seeking it out. In fact, I think I hope that I replaced the DVDs after our fire. I honestly can't remember, but it's a really great kids series, but it's interesting enough that it's gonna hook your interest. It's not just like, oh, that's a kid's cartoon, la la la. It's great. I love it.
Okay.
In fact, there is a nurse named Nova who I still remember to this day. And the main character was Alec Wildstar.
Okay, well, considering it came out the year that I was born, I don't feel so bad that I haven't watched it.
I used to watch it every morning before school. All right. So the other thing that I will say that was in my goods about this show is that I actually really liked that it made a lot of social commentary. So there was a lot of conversation around homelessness, obvious signs of economic unrest in the culture, and then the conversation around prostitution and kind of internet pimping. And I just thought that was very interesting, and it actually made me want to kind of look back at what was going on culturally in South Korea in 2016.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a lot of things that I picked up on, and I always hyper focus on the negative male tropes, and
Yeah, I mean, that definitely did bug me a little bit. I was like, really the only woman that we're seeing as a strong kind of standout female character is someone who is abused and taken advantage of by men, and I'm not really digging that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, it was also odd that like her current boyfriend was, I mean, he was ready to pimp her out for rent, but he was also like at the end there, he was so genuine and so concerned about her. And then like literally her pimp was like gonna do anything to find her and keep her alive. And then when he accidentally kills her, he's like, for a second, he's just absolutely torn apart. And then he reverts back to his, just ugh,
And I do
horrible
want to
life.
let you know, by the way, totally off topic, but back to my good, that Star Blazers is available on Prime Video, I believe.
Oh, good.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I struggled with the kind of negative male stereotypes and frankly the negative female stereotypes. I did.
Yeah.
But I do think that the main character like also kind of redeemed that negative female stereotype in the end.
She definitely got her revenge.
Yes.
So it's funny how you said that you liked the kind of style of the cartoon, that it reminded you of Star Blazers and Heavy Metal, because overall I was very, very impressed. And this is such a minor bad that I feel bad for saying it, but their ears, every time I saw their ears, I thought that they were bleeding out of their ears.
Oh my gosh, that's really funny. Now I'm gonna have to go back and look at pictures.
I'm sorry if you can never unsee that, but once I saw it, it was so distracting, because one of the times that I saw it was when the guy who turned out to be her daddy pimp knocked down the boyfriend. I thought that he was bleeding from the ear. And then like several scenes later, I noticed that everyone had this weird ear visual thing. And all of the rest of the animation was just so great that every time that I saw their ears, I was taken out of the moment. And I'm just like, why can that person not draw in her ear?
So not to negate your bad, but one of the things that I do want to say positive about the animation that I forgot to mention is that I thought the choice of having those incredibly still, slightly differently illustrated backgrounds with the way our figures moved was a very interesting visual.
And I cannot remember what scene it was. It was close to the I think it was when they were walking into the ER, or close to the scene where she was in the model home apartment thingies.
Mm-hmm.
There was a scene where there was kind of a static background, and just the furnishings kind of in the background. I don't know. It was like a waiting chair or a couch or something. It, like I said, it was all very, very well done, except for the ears.
That's so funny.
It is, and I feel really bad for like that being my bad and pointing that out. But this is a great movie. Everything was amazing. The pacing, the plot twist, the social commentary, the animation, just all the protagonists. And then just like the ears just kept taking me out of the moment. Oh, maybe it's all the stout beer.
Well,
all right. So we went over your ugly, and it was a good ugly.
Well, but I didn't talk about my bad though. So,
oh, I'm sorry.
My bad is that, and you mentioned it earlier, it kind of lagged from the middle to a fair portion of the back half for me. And I would say that one of the things that kind of made it drag on for me was that over and over again, we got the crying and the woe is me, and especially from the homeless guy that Hysun was with. I mean, they both just kind of
Oh,
broke down and did all these tears, and he kept saying, "It's so bad, it's so bad." And I was like, all right, I'm over it. Let's move on with the story.
okay. So the one thing that I did notice about this, and I wrote it down, is like, and I don't know if, like I mentioned about Korean culture, like older people kind of get more leeway in their culture, and younger people don't. And I just felt like everyone was either very, very passive or very, very aggressive. And there was no middle ground in the Civ. And so, yeah, when people were like, I don't know what to do, and like, this is so awful, I was super annoyed. But then when they were like, I fought for this country, and like, I'm better than you. Yeah, I had an issue with that also.
Yeah, although I did really like, as that guy was dying, where he said, if I had somewhere to be other than Seoul Station, I would be there.
Yeah.
Do you remember when he said that?
Yeah.
That was pretty moving.
Yeah.
So, since we talked about my ugly already, what was your ugly?
Okay, my ugly was absolutely nothing to do with the show. And my ugly was neither good or bad. Well,
Does that
actually, it had
even
something to do with
count
the
if
show.
it doesn't have anything to
It
do with the show?
Okay, it had something to do with the show, but it wasn't anything that I was watching in the show. So I am sitting here, and it is specifically during the scene when our female protagonist is and the other homeless man were running through Seoul Station, and they got kind of trapped by that gate. They were both very, very out of breath and panting very hard, and there was a lot of exacerbated dialogue and heavy panting that from the other room, my other half yells, "Are you watching porn?" And at that moment, I absolutely cued in onto the fact that it really, really sounded like I was watching porn.
That is really funny.
And it was a prolonged amount of time that there was a lot of heavy panting and straining and grunting. So, just FYI, if you are watching this and somebody else is within earshot but also not watching it, they could accuse you of watching porn.
That is really funny.
It is. It is. So, I mean, that was my ugly. It was neither good or bad. It was just hilarious because it was, are you watching porn? Oh. So I think that porn squarely puts us in our running for free.
And I have to turn back to the very beginning of my notes about Seoul Station, which I am noisily turning to now.
So I kind of feel like this is one zombie movie that people have actually seen a zombie movie. Because when they were trapped in that sort of police station, that she saw the police guy with the bite and was absolutely horrified, like, oh my god, he's gonna turn. And there was also a scene, there was a couple scenes where people really understood what was happening, and I feel like in a lot of at least newer zombie movies that people are completely unaware of zombies. In fact, the directors and writers make it a point to not say the Z word. And I just thought it was I liked it. It was refreshing that it was like, okay, this person knows that when you are bitten, you will turn, you will die and turn, and you're a threat. So bitten people, stay away from.
So I have a question for you. I didn't really get a sense whether aim for the head is a rule in this universe or not. It seemed like it was.
I think so. Why do you not think that?
Um, I just, I don't know. I didn't get a great sense of them understanding that you have to aim for the brain to kill them. And at the end, very bad boyfriend was just cut across his throat. That's how he died.
Right.
But we didn't see any reanimation.
Okay, so we didn't see any reanimation, but it was very, very shortly after his death that the movie ended. And I will say that he did not die from a bite, which I think amplifies the infection, the time between dying and turning. So that may be an explanation. I will absolutely grant you that they did not understand to aim for the head. But yeah, in Train to Busan, we mentioned that, or I mentioned that these were not necessarily like brains zombies. They were more infection zombies. They weren't killing to eat. They were seeking to infect. So,
okay, I like that. That's very true. Yes.
Yeah. So that's my only explanation.
Interesting.
So, I seriously have in all caps, wow. I would not let my boyfriend pimp me out for my body, my money. GTFO.
Well, and so the thing that really made me think about was what is that telling us about the cultural upheaval in South Korea at that point in time? Because what I really got from watching this is that there were tremendous economic woes and that there was a lot of homelessness. And I don't know if that's accurately reflecting the time in which the writer was writing or if that was just the universe that he chose to set his show in. I'm not really sure.
Well, and so that I am the horrible, horrible, angry feminist, and that I saw that he was spending all of his time in internet cafes, spending their money on, gaming or surfing the internet or whatever he was doing, and not rent, and that she was more of a second-class citizen that he could pimp out. Yeah, that's where I went culturally is that she was just, her boyfriend was going to post her on back pages. And the funny thing is he's like, you don't have to sleep with him. You can just rob them. And I'm thinking, you could too. Like, you could post yourself on back pages and not sleep with whoever answers your call and just rob them. Like, why are you putting her, up? Yeah. So that's where I went culturally.
Huh. Okay. Very interesting. I'm looking through my notes. I have a lot of notes. I don't know that I have a ton more to say.
So I one of the things that I have read a lot about in Asian cultures is their subways, train stations, public transportation are very, very clean. You will not find chewing gum stuck to the ground. You will not find litter, and I was really, really surprised to see that they almost encourage the homeless to sleep in the underground stations after they close.
That was the impression that I got as well, that it was a warm, safe place for homeless people to be.
Yeah, and that is still something culturally empathetic that I kind of noticed about about the show, and I have remembered seeing that when there has been major natural disasters, like the tsunami in Japan and everything, that there was even like restaurants and cafes that opened their doors to stray cats and dogs to let them sleep in there because it was the only safe, warm, dry place, and so it seems it was just so interesting that they were so anti-homeless, public drunkenness, that type of thing. But they're so empathetic that they will let them sleep in the train stations at night. I just found that super interesting.
I'm looking through notes. I promise you. Again, I just.
So I gotta say that.
Okay.
Okay, go right ahead.
So, zombie kill of the week. Definitely bashing the Zed's head in with the toilet bowl lid.
So I remember that from Zombieland.
Oh, really? Did they do that in Zombieland?
They did.
Oh, that's hilarious.
At the beginning, the kid invites the hot neighbor into her house because she was chased by the homeless man. And that was his only weapon in the bathroom was the tank lid. And I'm like, okay. And in the movie, not a zombie movie, but in the movie The Accountant, I believe that the girl in that movie uses her tank lid as a weapon also. So just remember, if you were trapped in your bathroom, your tank lid is a viable weapon. Because cuticle scissors aren't going to cut it.
Right. No pun intended.
Pun absolutely intended. Okay, so it was so funny that the main female character literally tripped over her wedge heels and avoided a zombie attack.
I honest to God saw her running up the stairs in those heels, and I thought, really?
And so if you've never worn them so if you've never worn them, I was going to say if you've never worn them or if you're a man, but it is entirely plausible that if you're a man, you've worn wedge heels. Wedge heels are the most impossible thing to walk in. They're horrendous.
Oh, so I actually prefer wedge heels to just a regular high heel. Now we're going way out in the weeds. I
prefer a thicker heel, not like a spiked heel, but definitely not wedges. However, I love my Danskos, and Danskos are very rigid shoes, and I have a pair of Mary Jane Danskos, which I happen to wear today, and I spend half Fridays in the office for a work group meeting. It is the only time that I now go into the office, so it's the only time that I put on real pants and shoes and makeup, and I actually nearly broke my ankle on my Danskos today because they are so rigid and thick and heeled and everything. So I completely identified with the female in the movie when she tripped over her wedge heels.
I'm still envisioning running up those stairs in the heels.
Running in heels is not as hard as you'd think it would be.
Yeah, no, thanks. No, I'm not interested. Been there, done that, not planning on doing that again at any point in my life.
The secret to running in heels, and there's actually a race that men do for some charity, and I cannot remember what it is, but they actually run in heels. The secret to running in heels is to focus on nothing but running in heels.
So speaking of running, I did write down, and I think I may have said this about Train to Busan also, It really did have a Black Summer feel, or in fairness, Black Summer had a Train to Busan feel.
You know, in real life, it would be awful. I prefer slow zombies. But when we're talking movies and shows, fast zombies are way better.
They're way scarier. Although, you gotta say, some of the zombies, especially in early Walking Dead, were pretty scary.
They were. They were. And now they're only scary in large hordes or when you let them pile up on the fence. So I have to say that, and I wrote this down. Why do people think that grabbing the steering wheel is ever a good idea? Like, nothing good comes from that. Right? Like, grabbing the steering wheel as a passenger, like, nothing can come of that would be positive. Like, yeah, that's just not going to work out ever. Don't do that.
So I also have to say that I did have a little bit of a jump scare in this movie, which is funny considering it was a cartoon. But when the old man gets stuck under the metal gate that's coming down, and I mean, I couldn't really tell if that thing coming toward them was a zombie or a living human.
I kind of had the feeling it was a living human because it didn't have the veininess.
Well,
or
and
that
that's what I thought
stare.
too. But then the way that the character was acting, I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
And so again, I feel like that's a social commentary on people with a mental illness, you know, having no place to go, no treatment plan, nothing like that. So
oh my god. So I will tell you, we are living that in America in 2020 right now, because I found out today that one of our patients got discharged from the emergency room to the Sullivan Arena in Anchorage. Have you ever been to the Sully?
No.
So the Sullivan Arena is exactly that. It's an arena. They got discharged to the Sullivan Arena, which apparently is now being used as a homeless shelter.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Because we have no sports ball teams.
Right. America
so
2020.
We're just now using it as a social distancing homeless shelter.
Yeah.
So I have to tell you, I experienced homeless with mental illness very, very recently. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. On my quote unquote lunch hour, which just means I get in the truck and run errands on my lunch hour from my home. I decided to go by one of our coffee stands, and there was what I would call a mentally ill homeless person harassing the baristas. And he was keeping the cars from going through on either side of the drive-through. He was yelling, he was swearing, he was pointing. He was not being violent, he was not armed. So I called our non-emergency dispatch number for our police station, and I was explaining the situation. And as I pulled up to, the order window, the barista could tell that I was on the phone with our dispatch, and I was basically looking her in the eye as I was talking to my car. And so when they were like, yes, we're aware of the situation, we have an officer on the way, I was like, okay. And so I hung up. And, I asked the barista, I was like, so, how are you? She's like, well, it's been interesting. And so this homeless man was basically just circling the coffee stand, screaming obscenities, blocking cars, pointing, that kind of thing. And we were trying to keep track of him to see, where he was going. So if any of us had to roll up our windows or shut our windows or lock our doors or anything. And we lost track of him. He just, in this, otherwise empty parking lot, he just completely disappeared. And so that was really disconcerting. And so I was like, do you want me to stay here? And I was like, I'll stay here until the police get here. And she's like, no, it's fine. And there were 3 of them in the barista stand. So I was like, okay. And we actually, one of the major headline murders we've had in the past decade was a barista that was kidnapped and killed by Jeffrey Keys.
Israel Keys. Israel Keys.
Thank you. Israel Keys, who's a notorious probable serial killer. And so I was very, very concerned for these girls' safety. So I and it was in an area where there's a couple of little tiny malls. And so I kind of circled the area for a while and I spotted him. And so I kind of parked and watched him out of the corner of my eye. And somebody came out of one of the buildings and was on his cell phone kind of peeking around the corner at the guy. And so I pulled my truck around and I was like, hey, are you calling the guy in? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, actually before this, the police had actually arrived to where the baristas were. And there was actually 3 cop cars and they were all standing around and talking. And I pulled up and I was like, hey, the guy that you're looking for is over on the other side of that building. And they were like, okay. And they just continued to stand around and talk. So when I pulled away, I pulled back around to monitor this guy. And that's when I saw the other guy on his cell phone. I pulled around. I was like, hey, are you calling about the guy on the guy that's yelling? And he's like, yeah, we have a no trespass order on him and we've thrown him out and he just keeps coming back. And I was like, well, there's 3 cops over there. And I just told them that, he's over here and they're not here yet. And so somebody else comes out of one of the other buildings. Same story. He's like, are you guys talking about this guy? It's like, yeah. And same thing. We have a no trespass order. He keeps coming into the store and we can't get him, And so I was like, okay. And so I pulled back around and I watched him out of the corner of the eye because I'm just like, oh God, this guy's going to disappear again. And the cops aren't going to be able to locate him. And I'm just really concerned for these girls' safeties at the coffee stand. So finally, one of the cops comes, cruising up from behind one of the buildings and takes him into custody and everything. I don't know what happened after that, but it's just... It made me really, really sad that I'm sure this man had severe mental illness. And, had he had some sort of treatment or if there had been a place for him to go, he would not have been harassing all of these stores and all of these employees and everything. And it was just, it was funny. I was actually thinking about that while watching Seoul Station, where it was like, this woman rolled up on these people and it seemed like she had a very, very severe mental illness. And it just makes me sad that there's no sort of plan for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're just letting our liberal flags fly tonight, aren't we?
Right?
Because we haven't fooled anybody.
We are completely off season right now. We have no idea when The Walking Dead is coming back. And we've just devolved into protests and pussy hats.
Can we say that on the podcast? All right. I think we have talked this sucker into the ground.
I think so too.
It's totally worth a watch. I would strongly recommend that people watch both Train to Busan and Seoul Station. I'm looking forward to the not really sequel.
Yes, definitely. It looks so good. Mm-hmm. And they did such a good job with Train to Busan and such a good job with Seoul Station that I can't imagine that they would screw this movie up. So
knock on some wood, man.
What's great is, Train to Busan came out before Seoul Station, And you don't actually have to watch them in order. You can watch Seoul Station first. That's
Right.
completely acceptable. So if you've reached this point in the podcast and you've not seen the movie and you still want to watch, either or, Seoul Station is on Amazon Prime for free.
If you have
And Train to Busan is on Netflix.
Yes.
And
who
then
doesn't
go
have
watch
Netflix
the YouTube
anymore,
trailers.
Right?
What's that?
I said, who doesn't have Netflix, right?
Right?
Although I
Like, in the
continue
time
to
of
maintain
Corona.
that Amazon Prime is treating us like we're citizens of a third world country.
You know, honestly, I was kind of giddy when I saw that Train to Busan, I'm sorry, not Train to Busan, Seoul Station was free with Amazon Prime.
Because you actually felt like you were getting something for your Prime membership?
Exactly.
Yes.
Although I do have to say that we ordered more video cameras for the outside of our house. And they did arrive 5 days before they were scheduled.
Oh, good.
I mean, I ordered them a month ago. But instead of June 11th, they showed up on June 6th.
So the filters that I ordered for masks, for reusable masks, finally showed up 2 days ago, and I ordered them in March.
Okay, well, that was probably a highly sought out product.
Yeah, that's fair. Fair enough.
Yeah. It's kind of like I ordered some antibacterial foaming cleanser 2 months ago, and it just showed up 2 days ago. But my Ring products, I don't know, maybe a lot more people are installing video cameras outside their houses, but I did not expect. Yeah, I did not expect my home security cameras to take that long to ship. And honestly, the only reason why I want extra home security cameras is because I want to see more baby bears running around.
Do we have a bear update before we go?
He is still in the tree.
Is he awake or asleep?
He hasn't moved in a while. So it's 10:15 p.m. Alaska time, which is about 20 minutes past actual sunset, and it is still completely light out. So I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. So I might actually have to take Phoenix potty out in the front yard.
Yeah, probably not a bad idea before bed.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap this puppy up because I got protest signs to make.
There's our liberal flag again.
Peaceful only.
So,
no bricks, no water bottles being thrown. Peaceful only.
Peaceful only. Except I really hope that anyone who thinks that they're going to do anything at a peaceful protest in Alaska knows that even us liberal Alaskans still conceal carry.
I made the decision not to carry.
It's a last resort.
I made the decision not to carry because part of being a peaceful protester is,
peaceful.
Not bringing a gun to a gunfight. You know?
Bringing my pussy hat to a gunfight.
You said it again. You're going to get us in trouble with Rob.
We've been good all season. So everyone, be safe out there. Go watch good movies like Seoul Station and Train to Busan. Go absolutely watch an excellent show called Hollywood. But until then, just remember, take it one dead day at a time.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good week.
Bye.
Bye.